What's up everybody? My name is Breanna Rutter, and in this video, I'm going to be walking y'all step by step through how to do your own invisible part sew-in on your own hair. So first, we're gonna start off by bleaching our bundles, and I'm just gonna briefly go over this. If you wanna see a full detailed tutorial on how to bleach your hair without causing any damage, then just check out my previous videos. So when I like to bleach my hair, I like to tone it with box dye. Some like to use professional products, so really to each their own. You wanna use whatever products work for you and actually help you achieve your desired look. So I bleached 3 different bundles to achieve 3 different looks. This is color 61 dark blonde, color number 43 medium golden brown, and color number 4 ultra light natural blonde. So now that the hair is ready and I've already braided down my braids, I'm gonna go ahead and begin sewing in my bundles. The braid pattern that I have here is a universal braid pattern. So if you wanna see how I achieve this, go ahead and check out my previous videos to see the detailed braid pattern tutorial for doing sew-ins. So as you can see here, I'm showing you how easy it is to prep your needle and thread. And I like to use nylon sewing thread because it's a lot more gentler on the hair than using wool or cotton thread. And I like to use curved needles because curved needles are very easy to use when sewing down your hair because they come out directly from your braid. If you like to use straight needles, that's okay. Just use whatever works for you. So now I'm just gonna go right back through that knot so that way I can create my first knot on my bundle so I can begin stitching it down to my braid pattern. Now, as you can see here with my braid pattern, I don't have on any wig cap or any type of protective measure on it, such as a weaving net. And it really kind of depends on how long you're going to be wearing your style and how much of a tendency you have with matting. Now, when I do my braids, I make sure I braid with a little bit of braiding hair so I don't have any issues with matting at my roots. But when you use a weaving net or you use some type of protective cap, that definitely helps your thread to not stick as much to your hair if you notice your hair tends to mat sometimes. So now at this point, I'm just securing about 3 to 4 knots at the beginning of my weft before I continue stitching going around my head. When you first start sewing down the beginning of your bundle, you want to make sure your knots are very close together, and then as you progress going along by sewing your hair, you want your knots to be a little further apart, because if all of your knots are touching when doing your sewing is going to take forever. So at this point now, I'm starting to space my knots to about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch apart. You don't want it to be more than 1/2 an inch apart because it's going to make those areas of your sewing very loose. So one measurement that's super easy to follow is to use the width of your fingernail. So the length of your fingernail, you want to make sure that's the space you're doing each knot. So that way you have enough distance but not too much. Also, another thing that I like to do when I'm sewing down is I like to do the double knot technique, which means I'm wrapping the thread around my finger twice, or I'm wrapping the thread around the needle twice, and then I pull through to create a knot. This helps my actual weft to feel in place and not be loose, especially as my hair grows out and the style gets a little older. The hair will not come apart, the bundles will not get loosened if you do the double knot technique. So you want to wrap the thread around the needle twice and pull through, or wrap the thread in between your fingers twice and then pull the needle through to create the knot. So now we're almost at the point to where I have to begin folding my hair extensions going back in the opposite direction, which is called the fold over method. The fold over method is very important, especially when you have quality bundles, because you're not going to have to cut through your wefts. So when you cut through your wefts, you're going to actually create the opportunity for more shedding, and you don't want to lose your hair on your bundles, you want to preserve it. So as you can see here, I'm folding the weft back in the opposite direction, and then I press down that fold and I secure about 3 to 4 knots. So that way the fold over method won't actually loosen during the duration of your hairstyle. So now I'm just going to continue stitching back, and I finished up my first bundle and left out about 5 to 8 inches of weft. This is the super ultra light blonde that I'm going to use at the front of my head when doing my invisible part. So this is my second bundle sewn in, and I also left out about 5 inches of weft, as you can see here. The reason why I'm leaving out some little bit of weft to the side is because I want to alternate the colors in the front to give my sewing a custom colored look. So stay tuned so you can see that. So now this is the remaining piece of the third bundle, which is the darker brown, and I'm actually stitching it very close to my invisible part area. You want to leave about 1 inch or 1/2 inch of space where your invisible part pieces will be, so that you don't have to glue or sew down large pieces. These pieces are going to be very small so that to the naked eye it looks like the hair is growing out of your scalp. Now the reason why I had the darkest color on top and the brightest color in back when I layered the colors is because I wanted to look more of a gray gradient effect. I really love how this turned out, and I can't wait to show y'all the finished results. So now we're almost done sewing in this weft at the top. You want to make sure that before you finish, you actually stitch down the last 2 pieces of the weft so they're literally touching each other. And you want to form about 3 or 4 knots so it's very secure. And this is the space that's left that we're going to do the invisible part method. So this is the pieces of hair I have left over for my 3rd, 2nd, and 1st bundle. So now before we begin putting down the pieces, it's very important that you split the tracks. Splitting the tracks means you use a razor to split down the middle of the weft. Hair extensions normally have 2 wefts together, as you can see here, and you have to split them to make the pieces thinner. The reason why your pieces have to be thin is because it's going to make your invisible part look very realistic. And this also gives you a lot more hair to work with. So I'm using the Weave Wonder Wrap product to form a thick layer of protection on top of my hair. That way when I'm using hair glue, it will not damage my hair. Now you can do the invisible part method 2 different ways. You can glue it down or you can sew it down. There's pros and cons to both. When you glue it down, it looks more natural and realistic, especially up close to the naked eye. But also a big negative is that it can cause damage if you're doing this type of style back to back and if you're not using a protective barrier on your hair. This is different than doing the sew in method when doing the invisible part because it doesn't look as natural to the eye, but it is safer on the hair because you're not using glue. So at this point, I'm actually stacking each piece very close to each other. You want to do this the entire time when you're stacking your pieces. Also, you want to make sure you're curving the pieces going away from your part so you can tell you're doing this right, because every time you put down a glued piece, the hair is trying to lay in the middle of your part and you want to train it to lay away from it. And the reason why you want to curve it is because each piece that's stacking needs to hide the previous pieces where the glue was placed. So as you can see here, you can't see any glue. And I'm using the blow dryer to train the hair to lay very flat on one side so it looks undetectable to the naked eye. Now you want to create your handmade closure piece, and you want to take the remaining weft and you want to glue it into a circle and blow dry it. So then you're going to comb the hairs going all around in a circle, and you're going to use your flat iron to flatten it out so it looks like this. Then you're going to apply a little bit of hair glue underneath the handmade closure, press it into position, and then blow dry it so it's extremely flat and contoured to your head. And ladies, this is something of what you should be looking like right after doing your invisible part sewing with the quick weave method. If y'all have requests for other tutorials, let me know down below in the comments, and let me know if you want to see a newer version of how to do this by sewing it down. I want to thank y'all so much for watching my videos, so give me a big thumbs up if you want to see more, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.